You were never ours to keep, Sarah. You were just the one we couldn't sell. That's what my mom or whatever she is said to me. Right there, in our kitchen, in our perfect little 4-bedroom house in the suburbs of Illinois. And you want to know the worst part? She said it like she was reminding me to take out the trash. So, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm 17. I go to Jefferson High. I have a part-time job at Dairy Queen. And up until last Tuesday, I genuinely thought I was living the most boring, basic, middle American life on the planet. Like, if my life were a movie, it would be the one you skip to get to the superhero flick. But here's the thing about real life, right? It doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care that you just bought prom tickets or that you're stressing about your SATs. Real life waits until you're doing laundry at 2 a.m., hears a weird humming behind the water heater, and decides to blow your entire existence apart. I found a door in our basement. A door that was never supposed to exist. And behind that door, let's just say my parents' home office looks a lot more like a CIA black site than a place for tax returns. Now, before I go any further, I need you to do something for me. Pause. Breathe. And actually answer this. If you woke up tomorrow and discovered your entire childhood was a lie, that the people who kissed your forehead goodnight were actually monsters wearing Costco khakis, what would you do? Seriously, drop it in the comments. Because I am standing in the wreckage of what I thought was my life, and I am asking myself every single second, am I in the wrong for wanting to burn it all down? If you're new here, subscribe. Not for me, for the ending you won't believe. Okay, so, let me back up. My name is Sarah Mitchell. At least, that's what my birth certificate says. I live in a place called Oakbrook Terrace. It's one of those Illinois suburbs where every house looks like it was copy-pasted from a catalog, where the biggest scandal is usually someone putting up Christmas lights in October. My dad, David, works in private security consulting, which always sounded vague, but, I figured that's just what dads say when they don't want to talk about Excel spreadsheets. My mom, Linda, is a part-time yoga instructor. She's one of those moms who makes gluten-free muffins and says namaste when she's annoyed. We have a dog named Biscuit. We do Taco Tuesdays. We are, on paper, the most aggressively normal family in America. But normal is just a mask, and masks slip. It started 3 weeks ago. I was down in the basement grabbing the extra laundry detergent because I ran out upstairs. Our basement is your standard Midwest horror movie setup: concrete floors, exposed pipes, one flickering bulb that my dad keeps saying he'll fix. I was reaching for the Tide when I noticed something. The wall behind the old furnace, it didn't look right. The concrete was a slightly different shade, and there was a draft. Like, a cold, intentional draft coming from behind it. I told myself I was being stupid. I told myself it was just a vent. But something in my gut, and I mean that physical, primal thing that lives in your stomach when you know you're not safe, that thing was screaming at me. I pushed on the wall. It clicked. And it opened. I don't have the words for the sound I made. It wasn't a scream. It was more like a soul leaving a body. Because behind that fake concrete panel was a steel door. A heavy, industrial, doesn't belong in a suburban home steel door. And it had a keypad lock. Red light, blinking, waiting. I shouldn't have gone back. I know that. Every horror movie, every true crime podcast, every instinct in my body said, walk away, Sarah. Walk away and pretend you saw nothing. But I couldn't. Because this wasn't a movie. This was my house. These were my parents. And if there was a locked room in my basement, I had a right to know why. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to my parents move around upstairs. They laughed at something on TV. They washed the dishes. They said goodnight to each other in that soft, familiar way. And I felt like I was losing my mind. Was I inventing this? Was this some kind of stress-induced hallucination? I almost convinced myself. Almost. The next day, my dad left for his consulting trip to Milwaukee. My mom went to her yoga retreat. I had the house to myself. And I had a mission. I don't know how I knew the code. I really don't. But I looked at that keypad, and my fingers moved. 0917. My birthday, September 17th. The lock turned green. The door hissed, and I stepped into hell. The room was small, maybe 10 by 12, but it was packed. Floor-to-ceiling metal shelves, filing cabinets, And on every surface photographs, hundreds of them, Polaroids, surveillance shots, printed emails, and passports. My God, the passports. Stacks of them, different names, different faces. Some of them were my parents, younger, different hair, different nationalities. David and Linda weren't David and Linda. They were ghosts wearing stolen skins. I picked up a file. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely read it. Inside were newspaper clippings. A kidnapping in Chicago, 2008. A missing girl, 4 years old. Blonde hair, blue eyes. The name under the photo was Emily Rourke. I knew that face. I'd seen it in my baby albums. I dropped the file. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. Because that wasn't just some missing girl. That was me. That was my face. My eyes. My everything. And the date of the kidnapping was 2 weeks before my supposed birthday. I ran upstairs. I don't remember running, but suddenly I was in the kitchen, hyperventilating over the sink. My phone was in my hand. I was about to call 911 when I heard the garage door open. My mom was home early. She walked in with her yoga mat, her cheeks flushed, her smile easy. "Hey, sweetie, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I looked at her. I really looked at her. The woman who taught me to ride a bike. The woman who held me when I had the flu. And I saw nothing. Just a mask. Just a performance so perfect it made me want to vomit. "I found the room," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like someone else. Someone braver. Or maybe someone broken. Her smile didn't falter. Not at first. But her eyes went dead. Like someone flipped a switch. She set down her mat. She locked the kitchen door behind her. "Which room, honey?" she asked, still playing the part. "The one behind the furnace. The one with the passports. The one with me in it." Silence. Thick. Heavy. The kind of silence that hurts your ears. Then she sighed. Not a guilty sigh. A tired sigh. Like I was a math problem she'd been dreading. "Sit down, Sarah." "No." "Sarah, sit down." I didn't sit. I backed away. My hand found the knife block on the counter. I didn't grab one. I just needed to know it was there. She watched me do it, and she smiled. But it wasn't her yoga mom smile. It was something sharp. Something carnivorous. "You always were too smart for your own good," she said. "Your father warned me," he said. "Linda, that girl notices everything. She's gonna be trouble." And I said, "She's 4, David. She notices crayons." But he was right. He always was. "Who are you?" I whispered. She tilted her head, like she was genuinely considering the question. "We were FBI once. A long time ago. Witness protection. We moved people. Gave them new lives. New names. We were very good at it. So good that we realized, why give it away? Why not keep the good stuff for ourselves?" My blood turned to ice. "You're not FBI." "Not anymore," she agreed. "Now we're just entrepreneurs. We take things that aren't being used properly. Children, identities, futures. And we repurpose them." I felt the room tilt. You kidnapped me?" "Kidnapped?" She laughed. It was a horrible sound. Like breaking glass. "Oh, sweetie. We didn't just kidnap you. We saved you from a life of mediocrity. Your real parents? Drug dealers. Trash. They didn't deserve you. We gave you everything. This house, this school, those pretty little friends of yours. We gave you a life." "You gave me a lie!" I screamed. The sound ripped out of me, raw and jagged. "You stole me. You stole my name. You stole my—" "Your what?" she cut in, her voice suddenly whip-sharp. "Your right to be poor? Your right to be dead? Because that's where you were headed, Sarah. Or Emily. Or whatever you want to call yourself. Your father, your real father, owed money to very bad people. We did you a favor. We took you off the market before someone worse got to you." I couldn't speak. I was crying, but I didn't feel it. I was just empty. A husk. And the other files? I managed. The other photos? There are dozens of kids in there. Dozens of names. What did you do to them? Her expression flickered. Just for a second. Something almost like shame. But then it was gone. Buried under 30 years of practiced cruelty. Some we sold, she said simply, to people who wanted children and couldn't have them. Good homes, mostly. Some we moved along to other places, other families. It's a service, Sarah. We provide a service. You sold children. I provided inventory to a demand. I wanted to kill her. I want you to understand that. In that moment, looking into the face of the woman who raised me, who sang me lullabies, who kissed my scraped knees, I wanted to wrap my hands around her throat and watch the light leave her eyes. And the scariest part? I think she saw it. I think she saw her own death in my face. And she wasn't afraid. Your father will be home in 2 hours, she said, turning away like we'd just discussed grocery lists. We're going to sit down, we're going to explain the rules, and you're going to accept them. Because if you don't, if you even think about going to the police, or telling that little boyfriend of yours, or posting this on social media, we will disappear you. And this time, there won't be a nice house in the suburbs. There will be a basement. A real one. With no doors. She walked upstairs. She didn't look back. I stood in that kitchen for an hour. Maybe 2. I don't know. Time stopped having meaning. I thought about running. I thought about the knife block. I thought about calling 911 and telling them everything. But then I thought about the passports, the files, the sheer, terrifying professionalism of it all. These weren't amateur kidnappers. These were ghosts. They'd been doing this for decades. They knew how to vanish. And then, something shifted. Inside me. A click. Like a lock turning green. I wasn't a victim. I was a witness. And witnesses don't run. They document. They build. They burn the whole thing down from the inside. I wiped my face. I took a photo of the kitchen knife block just to remind myself it was there. And then I went to my room. I opened my laptop. And I started planning. See, here's what my mom didn't know. She thought she raised a suburban princess. But she also raised someone who watched every true crime documentary on Netflix. Someone who knew that the FBI doesn't just have field offices, they have tip lines. Anonymous ones. And someone who, in the middle of her breakdown, had stuffed 3 passports and a flash drive from that basement room into her hoodie pocket. I spent the next week playing the perfect daughter. I smiled at breakfast. I asked about Dad's trip. I even went to yoga with her, holding poses while imagining her in handcuffs. It was the hardest acting of my life. Every "I love you" felt like swallowing glass. Every hug felt like being dipped in acid. But I did it. Because I needed them to believe they'd won. That they'd broken me. That I was compliant little Sarah again. Meanwhile, I was a ghost in my own home. I copied files from Dad's laptop when he left it unlocked. I recorded conversations on my phone. I mapped out their schedules when they left, when they came back, when the security system was armed. I learned that Dad wasn't in Milwaukee. He was in Indiana, delivering a 7-year-old boy to a client. I have the emails. I have the wire transfer confirmations. I have everything. But I needed more. I needed them to admit it on tape. I needed them to say the words. So I set a trap, a psychological one. Because if there's one thing I learned from 17 years of living with narcissists, it's this. They can't resist the opportunity to explain themselves. They think they're the smartest people in every room, and they love an audience. On Friday night, I made dinner. I made Dad's favorite pot roast. I opened a bottle of wine. I set the table like we were a family. And then I sat down, looked them both in the eyes, and said, I want to understand. I want to know why you chose me. I want to know the truth. My dad, David, or whoever he actually looked, relieved. Like he'd been waiting for this conversation. He poured himself a glass of wine and leaned back. You want the truth? He asked. Fine. You're a job that became an investment. Your biological father was a mid-level distributor for the Rourke family out of Chicago. He got greedy. He skimmed. So the family put a hit on him. On your mother, too. We were supposed to extract you as leverage, a bargaining chip. But when we got there, you were asleep in your crib. And you looked at me. You smiled. And I thought, why give her back? Why not keep the leverage permanently? He said this like he was telling a heartwarming story about adopting a puppy. So we took you, my mom continued. We killed your parents quickly, humanely, if that matters, and we staged it as a cartel hit. Then we retired from the bureau, took our skills, and built a new life with you as our cover. Because who suspects the nice couple with the bake sale contributions? I kept my face neutral. I kept my hands steady. Inside, I was screaming. But outside, I was ice. And the others? I asked softly. The other kids in the basement? Business, Dad said with a shrug. You're the only one we kept. The rest were transactions. Don't look at me like that, Sarah. The world is ugly. We just profit from it. Am I in the wrong? I whispered, for wishing you died instead of them? The table went quiet. My mom's eye twitched. My dad set down his glass. That's enough, he said. His voice had changed. Gone was the indulgent father. Here was the man who killed people for a living. You're going to your room, and tomorrow we're going to have a very serious conversation about your future, or lack thereof. I stood up. I looked at them both. And I smiled. I don't think so, I said. I pulled out my phone. The screen was lit up. On it was a live call to the FBI field office in Chicago. The call had been active for 47 minutes. You see, I said, my voice steady as stone. While you were explaining how smart you are, you confessed to double homicide, child trafficking, and about a dozen RICO violations. And Agent Morales? She's been listening to every word. The color drained from my father's face. My mother stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You stupid little, she started. But she didn't finish, because at that exact moment, we all heard it. The sound of tires screeching outside. Doors slamming. Boots on gravel. My dad lunged for me, but I was ready. I threw the pot roast pan and all into his face. Hot gravy, searing metal. He screamed. I ran. Not out the front door, I knew they'd have that covered. I ran for the basement. For the room. I knew something they didn't. When I'd been down there, copying files, I'd found more than just passports. I'd found their escape plan, their go-bag stash. And their second vehicle, a black SUV registered to a fake company, was parked in the old storm shelter entrance that connected to the basement. I grabbed the keys. I grabbed the hard drive. And I ran through the tunnel just as the FBI breached the front door. I didn't stop running until I hit the tree line, until I could see the red and blue lights painting our perfect suburban house, until I knew, with absolute certainty, that they were in cuffs, that their masks were finally off. I sat in the dirt, clutching that hard drive, and I cried. Not because I was sad, not because I was scared, but because for the first time in 17 years I knew my own name, Emily Rourke, and I was finally going home. So, that's the story. That's how I went from Sarah Mitchell, suburban honor roll student, Dairy Queen employee, girl who cried at Pixar movies, to Emily Rourke, survivor, witness. The kid who took down two of the FBI's most wanted without firing a single shot. It's been 6 months since that night. The FBI found everything. The room, the files. The other kids, some of them alive, thank God, living under names they never chose. My parents, my kidnappers, are in federal custody awaiting trial. And me? I'm living with my aunt. My real aunt, Margaret. She has my mother's eyes. She tells me stories about my real dad, how he used to sing off-key, how he built me a tree house I was too young to remember. It's painful. It's beautiful. It's real. But here's what keeps me up at night. Not the trauma. Not the nightmares. It's the question. The one that gnaws at my insides like a hungry animal. Am I in the wrong for missing them? Because sometimes, when I'm lying in this new bed, in this new room with this new life that I actually chose, I think about Taco Tuesdays. I think about Biscuit. I think about the way Linda, I can't call her mom anymore the way she used to braid my hair before school, and I hate myself for it. I hate that a part of me still loves the monsters. That my heart doesn't know the difference between real affection and calculated manipulation. But then I remember the room, the passports, the way they looked at me like I was property. And I remember what real love is. It's not possession. It's not, we saved you from mediocrity. It's choice. And for the first time in my life, I have a choice. I chose to testify. I chose to face them in court. I chose to look David in the eye and say, you didn't break me. You built a weapon. And when he tried to stare me down, when he tried to use that fake dad voice to manipulate me one last time, I smiled, just like I smiled at the dinner table. Because I knew something he didn't. I knew that the girl they stole was gone, and the woman they created, she was coming for them. So here's my lesson for you. If you're watching this and something in your life feels wrong, if someone who claims to love you treats you like property, like a secret, like something to be locked in a basement, trust that feeling. Your gut knows. Your gut always knows. And you don't need a locked room full of evidence to deserve freedom. You just need the courage to open the door. Am I in the wrong for what I did? For recording them? For trapping them? For choosing myself over the only family I ever knew? No, I'm not. And if you're in a situation where you have to choose between a comfortable lie and a terrifying truth, choose the truth. Burn the mask. Walk through the door. Even if it leads to a basement. Even if it leads to hell. Because on the other side of that door is a life that's actually yours. If this story reached you, if it made you angry or sad, or if it made you think of someone who needs to hear it, don't just scroll. Comment, share, subscribe. Not for the algorithm, for the next Emily out there, for the kid who hasn't found the door yet. Let's make sure they know they're not alone. I'm Emily Rourke. And this is my truth.